I'm sure you've ever heard about Pandora's box, the forbidden box, and how she released the curses in the world. And that's the most common story about it. And to be honest, this is not even 10% of the real thing. It all started with a mistranslation that no one bothered to fix. Also, what if I tell that Pandora wasn't a curious person, but a destroying being? Most of all, the hope she left in the so-called box, according to scholars, might not be comfort. It might be the last and the slowest curse.
Pandora wasn't created to love, she was created to destroy.
Quick question, what do you actually know about Pandora? Most people know the basics. She gets a box and the gods tell her not to open. Well, she opens anyway, and then out comes all the evil in the world, including disease, war, suffering. All because of her. When she slams the lid shut, there's only hope. That version of the story has been told so many times that most people assume it's the original. But trust me, it's not. The original is from Hesiod, a Greek poet writing around 700 BC in a poem called Works and Days. And what it says about Pandora is so different from the version most people know that reading it feels like finding out the movie you've seen 100 times is actually based on a completely different book. The box is a jar, and Pandora isn't curious, she's a weapon. And the hope at the bottom might not be comfort at all. Let's go through it properly. Because the real version is so much better than the one you know.
Part 1. Pandora.
Before we get to the jar, let's talk about Pandora herself. Because the version most people know skips the part that makes everything else make sense. Hesiod tells us exactly how Pandora was made, not born. Zeus ordered Hephaestus, the smith god, the craftsman, to take earth and water and from them shape a figure with a human voice, a construction designed to exactly look like a human. And then, the other gods got involved. And this is where it gets interesting. Athena, goddess of wisdom and war strategy, dressed her in silver robes and taught her the skills of weaving, practical skills, things that would make her useful and therefore wanted. Aphrodite, goddess of love and desire, poured grace over her head and painful longing and limb-weakening desire, not love. The kind of beauty that doesn't bring you joy, it brings you need. The Graces and Persuasion put golden necklaces on her. The Hours put spring flowers in her hair while Athena finished dressing her. And then Hermes gave her two final gifts, a lying mind and a deceptive character. Hesiod is completely explicit about this. He doesn't say Hermes made her curious, he says Hermes gave her lies and crafty words and a thieving character. Then Zeus gave her a name, Pandora, meaning all gifted because every god on Olympus gave her something. And every single gift was a tool, not for her, for Zeus's plan. Now stop and look at what just happened. This is not a woman who is given a box and told not to open it and then made a mistake out of human weakness. This is a being who was constructed from scratch by the king of the gods with specific instructions, assembled with beauty and desire and deception built into her at the cellular level and sent down to earth as a gift. A gift to Prometheus, Prometheus's brother. Prometheus means forethought, the one who thinks ahead. Epimetheus means afterthought, the one who figures things out too late. Prometheus had warned his brother to not accept gifts from Zeus. Do not trust what comes from Olympus. Epimetheus forgot, or chose to forget, because Pandora was beautiful, because Aphrodite had made her that way, because that was the point. And when he married her, she brought the jar with her.
Part 2. Prometheus and the theft of fire.
Here's the part of the story that most retellings skip, because without it, Pandora makes no sense. Why did Zeus create Pandora in the first place? Because of Prometheus? And what Prometheus did is one of the most consequential acts in all of Greek mythology, and also one of the most complicated. In the version Hesiod tells, humanity originally lived without fire, not the fire of creativity or inspiration, actual fire. The physical ability to cook food, keep warm, work metal, light the dark. Without it, humans were significantly more vulnerable, more dependent, more controllable. Prometheus stole it. He went to Olympus, or in some versions to the forge of Hephaestus, took the fire, hid it in a hollow fennel stalk, and brought it down to humanity. This is why humans have fire. This is why civilization, as Hesiod understood it, was possible at all. Zeus was furious, the specific kind of divine fury that requires a proportional response to the transgression. Prometheus had given humanity something that was supposed to be withheld. He had changed the relationship between gods and humans in a way that couldn't be undone. So Zeus responded on two fronts. First, Prometheus himself. Zeus had him chained to a rock. Every day, an eagle would come and eat his liver. Every night, the liver would regenerate. Every day, the eagle would return. For eternity, or until Hercules eventually freed him, which is a different story. Second, humanity. Because punishing Prometheus alone wasn't enough. Humans had benefited from the theft. Humans needed to suffer for it too. This is where Pandora comes in. She wasn't sent to Epimetheus because Zeus liked him. She wasn't sent because the gods thought humanity deserved a companion. She was sent because Zeus needed a vehicle for the second part of his punishment. The first part, fire, had already happened. Humans had it. It couldn't be taken back. What could happen was that all the things that make fire and civilization and abundance and ease feel less worth it could be released into the world. Disease, toil, pain, death, everything that makes human life difficult. Pandora was the delivery system, the jar was the package, and Epimetheus, the afterthought, the one who forgot his brother's warning, opened the door and let her in.
Part 3. The God's Biological Weapon.
Let's be precise about what Zeus actually did here, because the popular version softens it considerably. In the popular version, Pandora is a naive woman who makes a mistake. In Hesiod's version, Pandora is a precision instrument built for a specific purpose by beings with complete knowledge of what they were doing. Think of it as a production line. But instead of building something useful, every station on the line was adding a new layer of destruction wrapped in something beautiful. Hephaestus goes first. He takes earth and water, the same materials Prometheus used to make humanity in some versions of the myth, and shapes them into a figure with a human voice. Not a human being, a construction, a prototype. At this stage, she is clay and water with a voice. Then Athena steps in, dresses her in silver robes, and teaches her the crafts, weaving, domestic skills, the practical arts that make a woman valuable in a Greek household. This is important. Athena isn't making Pandora beautiful here. She's making her functional, the kind of woman that a man does not refuse, because she is not just desirable but practical. Athena removes every practical objection before anyone has made one. Then Aphrodite hops in, and here Hesiod is very specific about the words he uses. Aphrodite doesn't give Pandora love. She pours over her head charis, grace, and himeros, painful longing and limb-weakening desire. That middle word matters. Himeros in Greek is not the warm, comfortable feeling of love. It is the specifically painful kind of wanting, the longing that hurts, that clouds judgment, that makes you reach for something you know is wrong because the wanting itself overrides everything else. Aphrodite gives Pandora the ability to produce in others a desire so strong it physically weakens them. And then, the graces add jewelry and the hours add flowers. These are the finishing touches, the presentation layer, the packaging that makes the weapon look like a gift. And then Hermes, last. And what Hermes adds is the core of everything, a lying mind and a deceptive character. Hesiod uses the word dolon, deceit, treachery, the kind of cunning that operates undercover. This is not a personality trait that Pandora developed. This is something installed. Hermes, the god of thieves and liars and messengers, gives her the fundamental operating system of deception. Now, add it all up, a figure that looks human, dressed practically so you can't object on functional grounds. Radiating a desire so strong it weakens your body, beautiful beyond reasonable response. And at her core, deception. Hesiod calls her a beautiful evil, kalon kakon, 2 words. That's his entire assessment of what was created. Beautiful, evil. And Zeus looked at what had been assembled, this layered, deliberate, multi-god construction project, and gave her a name, Pandora, all-gifted. Because every god gave her something. Every gift was a weapon. Every weapon was wrapped in something you would want. And then Zeus sent her down. Not as a punishment, the gods declared openly, as a gift, because that's what made it work. A punishment that arrives looking like a blessing is so much more effective than one that arrives looking like what it is. Prometheus saw her, the afterthought, the brother who forgot the warning, saw what the gods had assembled and took her into his house. Prometheus, chained to his rock with the eagle coming tomorrow, would have known immediately what she was. Prometheus didn't figure it out until it was too late. That's literally what his name means.
Part 4. Pithos, the mistake that changed everything.
Here is the detail that almost nobody talks about, and it changes the entire image of the story. It was not a box. The word Hesiod uses is Pithos. A Pithos is a large ceramic storage jar, and when Hesiod says large, he means large. These things were typically 4 to 5 feet tall. They were used throughout the ancient Greek world to store wine, oil, grain, and other provisions. They were so large that people didn't carry them. They were kept in one place, often partially buried in the earth to maintain a stable temperature. And here is the detail that really matters. A pithos was also used to bury human bodies. In ancient Greek practice, before the widespread use of stone, sarcophagi, and flat burial, bodies were sometimes placed inside large ceramic jars and buried in the earth. The pithos was simultaneously a container for the food that sustains life and a container for the dead. The Greeks believed that souls escaped from the body and necessarily returned to these containers. The vessel that held grain and wine was the same vessel that held the dead. Pandora's jar was not a pretty wooden box with a brass latch. It was a 5-foot ceramic burial jar containing the spirits of every form of suffering, diseases, and toils described by Hesiod as spirits, as beings that fly out and disperse through the world, not as abstract concepts. The mistranslation happened in 1508. Erasmus of Rotterdam, one of the great humanist scholars of the Renaissance, was compiling a collection of Latin proverbs called the Adagia, and wanted to include the Pandora story as an illustration. When he translated Hesiod's Greek Pithos into Latin, he chose pixies, a small box or casket. Some scholars think he confused the Pandora story with a different myth involving a box opened by a character named Psyche. Whatever the reason, the word stuck. Every subsequent European retelling of the Pandora story inherited Erasmus's box. The image of a woman with a beautiful decorative wooden box became the standard. The reality, a woman with a storage jar the size of a person, used for grain and for bodies, sealed with a lid and containing the spirits of all human suffering, disappeared. What remained was a box, small, portable, the kind of thing a curious woman might pick up and examine, not a 5-foot burial jar containing the dead.
Part 5. Hope, the last poison.
When Pandora slammed the lid back onto the jar, only one thing remained inside, Olympus, or like the standard translation, hope. And for 2,500 years, the interpretation has been that this is the consolation. For all the evil released things might be terrible, but we have hope for overcoming this. However, here's the problem with that interpretation. Created by Hesiod himself, the jar contained evils. Hesiod is explicit about this. The jar is full of evils, of spirits, of disease and toil and misery. Everything that flew out when Pandora lifted the lid was a harmful thing. That's the whole point of the story. So why is hope in the same jar? If the jar contains evils and hope is in the jar, then either hope is also an evil. Or Hesiod made an error in the structure of his myth. Or hope being in the jar of evils is something he intended, and its meaning is more disturbing than the consolation reading suggests. There's actually an older version of this story that makes the problem clearer. Before Hesiod, or possibly alongside him, there existed a different version of the jar myth, not Pandora's story. An Aesopic fable in which Zeus gathers all the good things in the world and puts them in a jar, gives it to an unnamed human being, and tells them not to open it. The human opens it out of curiosity. All the good things fly up to heaven and are lost. Only hope remains at the bottom. In that version, the jar contains blessings. Hope staying behind makes perfect sense. It's the last good thing left after all the other good things escaped. But Hesiod inverts the jar. In his version, the jar contains evils, and hope for some reason is still at the bottom. The scholar M.L. West, one of the most respected Hesiod scholars of the 20th century, wrote that Hesiod's narrative somewhat confusingly mixes the two images, the jar of blessings and the jar of evils, and that this confusion is probably because Hesiod was working from an older tradition he adapted incompletely. In the original myth, the jar may have contained good things and Hope's remaining was straightforwardly positive. Hesiod changed the contents to evils, but kept Hope at the bottom without fully thinking through what that meant for the interpretation. Or, and this is the reading that some scholars find more compelling, he thought through it completely. And Hope at the bottom of a jar of evils is exactly what he intended. Hesiod himself gives us the clue. Later in Works and Days, not in the Pandora story, but a few pages after it, he describes Hope explicitly. He calls it empty. He says it is no good. He says it makes people lazy, that the belief things will improve leads people to wait instead of work, to expect relief instead of producing it. This is Hesiod the farmer talking. He wrote Works and Days as a practical guide to agricultural life. He understood better than most that the difference between a good harvest and starvation was not hope, it was planting at the right time and working the right way. A farmer who hopes for rain without checking the sky, without planting at the right time, without maintaining the soil, that farmer starves. Hope without action is not comfort, it is delay. Friedrich Nietzsche read Hesiod and came to the same conclusion, but expressed it more sharply. Inhuman. All too human, he wrote about the Pandora myth specifically. His reading was that Zeus wanted humans to never stop suffering, but also never stop expecting that the suffering would end. Hope, in Nietzsche's reading, is what keeps people in a condition of tolerable misery, always believing that relief is coming, never quite broken enough to stop waiting for it. It's the mechanism that makes suffering sustainable, rather than the thing that ends it. In his exact words, hope is the evil of evils because it prolongs the torment of humanity. Think about what that means in the context of the jar. All the actual evils flew out immediately. Diseases and toil and death, and all the spirits of suffering, they escaped and spread through the world instantly. But hope stayed sealed inside. And Pandora replaced the lid before it could escape. So humanity has hope in a jar, and, therefore, contained. Available Hesiod says it stayed under the rim of the great jar, implying it is accessible but not free. The evils are out in the world doing their work, and hope is in a jar in the possession of humanity, available to reach for at any time. Is that a gift, or is it the most sophisticated part of the punishment? The evils make life hard. Hope makes hard life bearable enough to continue. Without hope, the suffering would break people completely and they would stop. With hope, they'd keep going, keep suffering, keep enduring what they cannot escape because they believe, because something in the bottom of Pandora's jar tells them that escape is coming. Hesiod closes the Pandora story with a line that most translations soften. The literal meaning is closer to, thus it is not possible to escape the mind of Zeus. Not at least we have hope. Not there is comfort in the jar. No way to escape what Zeus intended. And what Zeus intended was a punishment that humanity would carry, not as a burden obvious enough to throw down, but as something they would hold on to willingly, because it looked, from the outside, exactly like comfort, the jar, the beautiful evil, the woman built to destroy. And at the bottom of everything, hope. Whether that's the one good thing left or the last and cleverest trap is the question Hesiod leaves open, on purpose. Because that ambiguity, that inability to know for certain whether hope is saving you or keeping you exactly where you need to be, might itself be the point.
Epilogue, slammed in the jar for 500 years.
So, Pandora's box, not a box, a burial jar, not a curious woman, a precision instrument built by the gods, with beauty and lies and painful desire built into her at the foundation, not a mistake. A delivery system for a punishment that Zeus designed, specifically because fire had already been given to humanity and couldn't be taken back. And that hope at the bottom? Read Hesiod carefully. He doesn't tell you it's good. He tells you it stayed. Whether that's the one gift in the jar or the last trap, that part he leaves to you. Hesiod's Works and Days is at sacred-texts.com right now. It's free, it's short, and it reads nothing like the version you've heard your whole life. The real story was always there. It just got translated wrong in 1508, and nobody corrected it for 500 years. If you like the video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and follow for more.